Hello everyone, welcome back to my 30 days of JavaScript LeetCode challenge. Today's problem is flatten deeply nested array. We will build our own version of Array.flat but with a custom depth. The question says we are given a positive multi-dimensional array, a number n which represents the maximum depth we are allowed to flatten. We need to return a flattened version of this array but with a rule. The outermost level has depth 0. We only flatten subarrays whose current depth is less than n. If n is 0, we don't flatten anything and just return the original array. We are not allowed to use the built-in array.prototype.flat method. You can go through the examples. There are almost three examples. So let's see the thought process now. We want to flatten the array up to depth n, not indefinitely. A very natural way to handle this is to use recursion and pass along. Here is the idea. We create a helper function that takes the current array and the current depth for each element in the array. If the element is not an array, we just push it into the result. If the element is an array, if current depth is less than n, we recursively flatten this subarray with depth plus 1 and add this element to the result. Otherwise, we do not flatten it. We just push the whole subarray as it is. This matches the rule from the problem. This flattening operation should only be done if the current depth of nested. So starting depth is 0 for the outer array. Every time we go one level deeper into the nested array, we increase the depth and we stop flattening when depth is no longer less than n. Let's see the coding problem. Here is the full code. First, we define the flat function which takes the original array and the maximum depth. Then this is where we will collect all the elements of the flattened array, and helper is a recursive function that takes the current array we are processing and the depth of this current level. And over here we have used the loop. We visit each element inside the current array, and this is the code logic. If item is an array and the current depth is still less than n, that means we are allowed to flatten this array one level deeper. So we call helper again on the subarray, but now with depth plus 1. Otherwise, either it's not an array or we have already reached the allowed depth. In both cases, we simply push item into result. We start by calling helper on the original array with depth 0 because the top level element are considered depth 0. At last, finally, we return the result array, which is our flattened version of array up to depth n. And that completes the flatten deeply nested array problem. We learned how to understand depth based flattening, use recursive with a depth parameter, decide when to flatten and when to stop. If you enjoyed this explanation, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and follow the rest of this JavaScript LeetCode series. I will see you in the next video. Thank you all.